It takes everything I am not to flee. What comes hissing from the box is pulled out of nightmares. Pulled so perfectly out of the depths of my subconscious that I nearly think the Sovereign knows where I come from. Where I truly come from. Hello, Rusters. We are the Sons of Ares. My name is Chuck. With me, as always, Cullen. Now, usually at this point, I kind of add in some cool lore to the names and little tidbits from that, but this time it has to be a little bit different. I wanted to mention that Cullen and I recently got invited to a Discord, and full of some really, really cool people. Been chatting with a few of them. Probably trying to annoy some of them by now, but part of this Discord, and by the way, we were invited into it by our very own Strawberry Sovereign. Shout out to Janelle from Good Ladies. And she's the one that immediately requested that we need to get some Howler names. And their go-to over there was from somebody named Sub-Zero. And although I kind of hoped and prayed that maybe we would get Howler names from Howler 1 himself.
The only ones that really count in the end, but these are fantastic.
These are fantastic. So they had us answer some questions about ourselves, and Sub-Zero, fired away, and we got some new names. So, Cullen, would you like to announce what your name is?
Well, based on my love of military history and the movie Jaws, Sub-Zero was able to grant me the sobriquet of Harpoon, which I gotta say, I actually fucking love. And now I've got to find a harpoon to hang in my denier, and I'm gonna probably have to get a tattoo of a harpoon at some point.
Oh boy, going all out! I love it.
We'll see.
Did the wifey approve this potential harpoon purchase?
No, and she likely will not. Also, I would think that you will have to also get tattoos of iron on your sides. Maybe what was the name granted to you?
Yeah, I guess I'll just get a brick of iron. So I put in a little bit of my military history, and then talking about family, and I was gifted the name Ironside, which I rather much enjoyed. Now, I told the wife about this, and she looks at me, and she's like, "What? Come again?" And I was like, "Yeah." So
that's fair.
Definitely after these last couple of years, I feel more like rusted metal, like everything's falling apart, but we got a kick out of the whole Ironside. I was like, maybe 20 years ago.
More of a patina.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It's got this cool new look to it. It's still falling apart.
Yes. Like a really cool artifact, an archaeological helmet.
Yes.
A helmet that's been brought up from the Mediterranean, rusted and a little full of holes, and maybe not what it once was, but still really cool.
Yeah. I wouldn't trust it to put it on your skull and then expect to get hit in the head or something like that.
Maybe a glancing blow.
Yeah. You hope for the best. But so that was really, really cool. We are now known as Harpoon and Ironside, which, we're very appreciative of that. And again, really cool community. Thank you.
And there's both of us are newbie. Well, I'm a newbie to the Discord world, but there's the Hail Reaper Discord, which is where we were. We're also in the Howler's Den Discord, which is a lot of fun. It's chaos though. There's always stuff happening. There's like, I get notifications for trivia, for writing, for working out. Like they have a whole ecosystem of howlers just constantly aflutter over there. So if you're Discord friendly, definitely check out both the Hail Reaper and the Howler's Den. There's much to be seen, much to be read, much to also try and figure out what the fuck is going on at any given time.
It's a grand community, and they're, as you put it, they're always talking about something. They're doing little like tournament style brackets. They just did one on the Hail Reaper Discord, and trying to pick who would win or who do you choose over others. And it's entertaining. And then there's other little things like, hey, what are some movies people recommend, or of course other book recommendations. Or you could be as ignorant as Cullen and forget how to sign in and forget how emails and passwords work.
Okay, I mean, let's get to the episode.
Yeah, okay. All right. So before we dive into chapter 15, which is Truth, Green Death, these recaps of ours may contain spoilers, headcanon, vulgar language, you name it. We will try to give you a heads up if we're going down a little spoiler rabbit hole. But we're human. We make mistakes. Shit happens. Cullen and myself are aging adults, and we discuss events and or topics within the Red Rising universe that may be an issue for some, so please, listeners, beware. And of course, a salute to Howler One himself for creating this masterpiece that we are trying to dissect and not look like complete idiots. So appreciate good old Pierce Brown. Now, my goodman, the Fear Night has struck.
Ooh.
Which I was going to pull down some Fear Night trivia, and then I was like, all right, let's kind of try to keep it up on point. But going back to book 1, which isn't really staying on point, but screw it, trying to trip you up, Severo was nicknamed the Goblin. Who was the first to give him this name and why?
Fitchner, didn't he like drag a deer, kill a deer, and then wasn't Severo like, didn't he kill something? So to answer the first question, I think it was Fitchner called him the Goblin, and then I think he called him a goblin because he killed a fucking deer and like ate it with his bare hands and had like blood and fur under his teeth or something.
Yes. So Severo was, of course, always known for cutting animals up and wearing their ears and skin. And he is, I mean, he's quite the creature. But it happened to be, yes, Fitchner himself, while he killed a deer while they were out scouting in the Institute and was telling...
Didn't he tell him to like drag it and then
to drag it, and he ended up not doing it.
He fuck off, and then they walked for like an hour, and then they didn't have the deer, so they didn't have dinner.
They ended up looking back and be like, "Well, I guess you guys aren't eating because asshole over there just left it, and nobody really cared." Severo didn't give a shit because he could just go back off in the woods and kill something else. But I'm sure some
kill
of those,
a wolf.
Yeah, some of those other Golds are probably pretty upset. So. Now, keeping on the Severo theme, Severo is supposedly at Pluto right now. Coming back to chapter 2, Gala happens. Now we're moving on from that. Severo's supposed to be at Pluto. I'm not going to ask you this question, but Pluto is 3.7 billion miles away from Lune. So it's almost as if somebody had this planned. Spoilers coming up in the future. You can't travel 3.7 billion miles that fast, okay? Just saying.
Well, here's
the day
my
is
question
mine.
for you.
What?
My question for you is, do we ever really get an explanation for how space travel works in the Red Rising universe? In the Expanse, there's that, there's an actual name
Epstein
for the
Drive.
Yep, the Epstein Drive. In Star Trek, there's one, and
warp speed. I don't even know.
Well, no, but there's an actual there's the science and invention behind the actual warp drive, and there's really, and this is why I actually think that Pierce Brown's books have such wide appeal.
Yeah,
it's kind of
not
like
technical,
and it's kind of like George R.R. Martin in Game of Thrones. He really doesn't go into the magical side of things. There's really no explanation for the dragons other than these high wizards in Valeria, whatever, Volantis. They did some kind of blood magic and the dragons came about. He doesn't try and create this incredible magic system of trade-offs and, sacrifices and enchantments that you have to understand fully. And I think that's why when the shows came out, the fans that watched the show then went and read the books, is because it wasn't this big, like, I have to really buy into I'm already buying into a world with
Yes.
dragons in it. Don't ask me to then learn the secret
spell
enchantments
books
of the
and
elders and whatever. I think the same thing here is like Star Trek has such, it's obviously got wide appeal, but I think that's because it was the first, kind of like Star Wars was
Oh,
the
yeah.
first entry
the
into
OG.
this. But it doesn't have as wide appeal as Star Wars does, because Star Trek has like science behind everything. That was
It's
the
too
goal.
technical.
Gene Roddenberry stated everything that he talks about in Star Trek, even to the time travel, like they want to have scientific basis for everything. And so when they start talking about like the actual mechanics of photon torpedoes, unless you know what the fuck any of that scientific jargon is, you're kind of like, all right, well, now this is the part of the book or TV show where I'm going to look at my phone.
Yeah. You're
And
skipping
Red
that or-
Rising, and Red Rising doesn't really have any of that. It's just kind of like, well, they went from, we know that Neptune's really far away because in Lightbringer, they're still talking about the Outer Rim fleet that hasn't arrived in 2 books. It was supposed to come back 2 books ago, but it's still really far away and they haven't gotten it there yet. So to your point, there's an elasticity to the travel and time thing here, because in this book we have, eventually, spoiler, Severo coming from Neptune or whatever,
far off, or Pluto,
all the way to the moon in, a
to
few
save
months.
the day.
But in Dark Age Lightbringer, one of the Rim Rebellion armadas, or the Rim armadas, still hasn't arrived, and it's been like years at this point. So
it has to be dead or gone, or I don't remember. It's just out
no,
there in the ink.
They just said it's going to take a long time for it to get here.
But leaving it so open, doesn't that just kind of, it leaves to our imagination? Does that infuriate you at all? Or like,
no,
do you think Pierce should do a little bit more, or
no,
leave it as is?
I think it's perfect the way it is, because it's like, I don't need to, I honestly think it would create more plot holes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because once you create this dogmatic structure to how people travel and all that,
you're linked to it.
You then have to stick to it. And if you don't, then you're going to have people calling you out. Kind of like what we saw with Game of Thrones in the final couple of seasons, where the first 4 seasons are really grounded in the reality of
books,
how long it would take for people to travel. Like, Daenerys has to go thousands of miles on land. And then all of a sudden, come the last season, they're going from King's Landing to the Wall in one episode.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
then they're traveling
well, to
beyond
be fair,
the wall.
she was going in the opposite direction when she was crossing the desert. They said if you want to go east, go west, or whatever that.
For sure, but I'm just, but
to your point,
you can never forget when Gendry, they're at the Fist of the First Men or whatever, and then he runs in one 15-minute sequence. He begins running and then makes it all the way back to the wall to tell them that the King of the Dead is coming or whatever, and that journey took them an entire episode to make, and he runs back in 5 minutes or whatever.
Yes. No, because it took days to go to the Fist of the First Men before they were annihilated. But
it was more convenient for the show.
It was like the intro.
He got back here.
Yeah. Oh, wow. All right. I guess time jump. And you're right, Martin. Now that I'm thinking of that, in between chapters, in between characters of that book, you had no idea if it was days, weeks, months. Some chapters were just like a year later. Or it was at the exact same time. Yeah.
It fluctuates.
And that was almost, it kept you on your toes. You're like, is this happening at the same time? I don't know. I like that. So, I guess there's some similarities here with
Pierce. Kind of give you, it's intentional to play with time like that, to keep you from really pegging things down in a very kind of overly grounded way. I think The Expanse does a good job in that everything that they're talking about is very science-based and realistic, but they don't get so in the weeds about it that they can't also introduce stuff that is like, oh, well, this is, it doesn't contradict anything that they've already set up.
True. No,
What are your thoughts?
I agree. I like the way The Expanse handled it, but to be honest and fair, that was my first real venture into sci-fi. But it
Mm.
seemed like they explained the Epstein drive. It helped explain how they managed to do interplanetary travel. And then the only other times they kind of talked about it is when there was ship to ship combat and the stresses on their body and the suits that had to inject, you know, drugs and hormones or steroids into their bodies to keep their, insides from just turning to liquid. Um, I kind of I loved those parts of the book, that
Hmm.
naval combat, you call it if you will. And this there is naval combat, but it was different, and I almost like the naval combat style of the Expanse series versus what we will eventually read coming up. Now, the land to land combat, any of that stuff, infantry wise, following Darrow, Ragnar, that shit had me hooked in line and sinker, biting my nails. But the naval seemed to, it
Well,
didn't it didn't pull me in as much.
I have an interest, or not an interesting, but I have a theory about this that may or may not be played out by events. But I actually think, and this might be a TikTokable take,
Mm. Oh, let's go.
I actually think space combat in the future will look more like the Pierce Brown than the Expanse.
Okay.
I think that the likely version of space combat we won't see, but eventually, if we're alive long enough to go to space on a large scale, and long enough for companies or corporations or countries
Yeah.
to actually invest the time and expense in creating ships of war that go into the ink, it'll look more like Pierce Brown because it'll be so difficult and
Mm.
uh, difficult, time consuming, and expensive to create ranged weapons that work with any kind of dependability, that it
True.
will actually, because
Consistency.
what Pierce Brown's version of space combat looks like is actually what Mediterranean Roman galley warfare was. And galley warfare at that point was, you're just trying to get the ships either next to each other so that your infantry on this ship can get onto the other ship and then
Yes. Or
fight
side
fight
by
a land
side.
battle.
Yep.
You're essentially just trying to fight a land battle at sea, or you're trying to ram the other ship and cut it in
Yeah.
half. Um, and I think that will likely be, if not the most regular version of space combat, it will be the first stage. It'll be the first way that we figure out how to do it, because, short of like missiles, which will work, but they'll be easily, or not easily, obviously it'll be difficult and
Hmm.
technically advanced. But think about it. When you're in space, there's nothing to stop you from uh, having sensory arrays and playing with the electronics that would go into the guidance of that missile. We do
Hmm.
it now on
Yes.
planet Earth. Look at the Iron Dome. Now, just imagine that on a ship. Any kinetics that you fire at that, the Iron Dome on a spaceship would be able to take care of it.
Yeah, and we kind
Um,
of have a little bit of that technology because aren't there satellites that have
yeah,
warheads or supposedly on them, and they have to work in you know, in the vacuum system of space to then penetrate through Earth's atmosphere. So it still has to get through that much part of space and not explode or fail. So the guidance
exactly.
system must work and the propellants must work. But
And
what if?
also, you'll throw drones at these things,
Yeah.
that will work as like human shields. Essentially, you'll just
Mm,
throw out a swarm of drones and it'll work like chaff. They'll just kind of
yeah.
create a
A
disturbance
flak
that will
screen.
stop that. Exactly. Whereas I think the more likely situation is you have meat tubes and meat straws, and you're just going to have boarding
Yeah.
happen, and it'll
That's what
be
I.
a land battle in space, essentially.
Watch, you know how history always repeats itself, but so we're so advanced, we're in the future, we have space combat, but the ships are literally reverted back to, just ramming each other. They have massive like hammerheads on the
Yeah,
front. And
Roman
cuz
galleys.
yeah, nothing else could maybe work as of yet as far as
And that's
propellant or range.
and think about it in terms of like where your uh the value is. So the reason that you wanted to do that in the, in the Mediterranean, first off, the Mediterranean, the Roman galley or the Egyptian galley, the Greek galley, whatever, they are the most advanced pieces of technology on the planet at that time.
Hmm.
There's a reason why there were only 300 Greek galleys, or, the Romans only had 700 of these things. It's because they were the most advanced, technically difficult, and expensive pieces of equipment that you could bring to your military.
Hmm.
You were dumping considerable amounts of your GDP,
Yeah, your
considerable
resources. Yeah.
actual real amounts of your national wealth would go into your navies. And as over the last 150 years, we've gotten further and further away from that, other than say like an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
And I don't see why that would be different. So if you think about it in those terms, not only is this the most expensive piece of equipment your entire country can produce for its military, but wouldn't it be more cost effective to try and capture the other guys?
Yes. Oh, 100%. Yeah.
So
Not
instead of
total destruction.
so instead of throwing a bunch of missiles at it, trying to blow it up in space and have nothing to show for your victory,
Punch a hole,
punch a
vacuum
hole,
vent it
capture
out.
that thing, and then
Yeah.
bring it into your own fleet. So that's why I think that you'll see, not in our lifetime, and if we make it to it,
No.
if space combat's a thing, it's going to look more like, Pierce Brown's meat straw than it's going to look
Yeah.
like the Expanse's rail guns, firing
Yeah. Torpedo
cheeseclothing.
tubes and
Exactly. So I don't know.
they're like
It's just a
mini
theory.
laser mini guns or whatever they're not lasers, but yeah, they look cool, and the show did a phenomenal job when they made
For
that show
sure.
on
And
Amazon.
also, I'm going to preface this all to say that James S. A. Corey, the two authors behind The Expanse, have probably had higher level conversations with people way further in the know than me, and so it's very likely that they know way more about it. So
Yes.
I'm not contradicting them or saying they're wrong. I'm just saying the way that
How
human
dare you?
beings and human history has gone, I think it's more likely that we do something we've done before.
Yep.
And
Something
it'll,
that we know works. Something
yep.
until we figure out all the bugs, all the nooks and crannies. We got to do the basic shit. Hit the hit the other guy with the bigger club.
Yeah, and then drag his,
Sorry ass. Yeah.
drag his cool spaceship back to our port by its hair.
Yeah.
Um,
Skin him.
you sidetracked me, by the way.
Well,
That
look,
tangent was on you.
it's all good. It's all good. Now, running back to where we were, sort of. Before in the previous chapter, we had a prior episode where we spoke on the Loon family and were they the only ones to sit the morning chair. I wanted to make sure this was a
Did you
question
get
we
an
left
answer
open.
on this?
I looked up through the Red Rising wiki, and it states the office of sovereign is intended to be an elected position. However, in practice, the office under the society has been hereditary under the control of House Loon for several generations, with at least 4 known sovereigns of the society being members of the Loon family. That's all it says. So,
So we're to believe that in 700 years, only 4 are loons?
yeah, that's how I pulled that. And then it starts going down through, the 4 Loon families, and then it has like the BCE or whatever time period system. But I thought I didn't want to leave it just open, but that's what's on the wiki site. And
I mean, that works as good as anything as an answer. I'm just surprised. But now you know how it is. Now it's like, well, I want to know all the answers for everything in between.
Yes. All right. Well, I'm doing what I can here. All right.
No, not from you.
Yeah.
From Howler One. I want to,
Yes.
who were the other families? Was it
Hell
the
yes.
Carthii? Were the
'Cause,
Valley
all right,
Roth?
so the average gold at this time period, yes, they can make it to 100 years. I think there was an interview where Pierce answered that maybe they can make up to 150 years if they're using, blood transfusions or whatever technology. So, it's 700 years or so since the beginning of the society, and 4, just 4.
And also, like, they're, they're not like at birth. sitting on the throne. Like they're probably
Joffrey.
55, 60 years old when they take the throne, and then they're sitting on it for 30 years, and then so it's
And we know Octavia's father wasn't on it for his full term before she
no.
chopped his head off. So it's not like there's 150 years. No, we know that's not true.
Oh man, I
So
wish he
yeah,
would
just to add more questions to the answers. But we've already dived into this. We're a good chunk in. I might as well continue on. How of appreciation this week goes to, you know this person, Cullen, my mother-in-law, actually.
Oh.
So we started off this pod, and she's been very interested, watching, always asking questions every time we post something, and I see her, and she's like, I saw you and Cullen. This is awesome. I don't know what it means. What the hell? And then I kept saying, read the damn books, as Cullen always says. And then she just asked to steal one of mine. And of course, my, paperback copies are all noted up and highlighted and stickers added. So I ended up buying her the first book again.
As they should be.
So I got her the book. She read it in 3 sittings. She loves it. She finished it all out. We were talking about it Sunday. Yeah, we're breaking it down, and she was trying to pick my brain, and she's totally into this. And I just wanted to send this hell of appreciation out to her. Thanks for diving into this series. And Christmas is coming up. I may have got something for you that,
oh shit,
you'll be satisfied for the next couple of weeks to get through this. So, good old Sue, this goes out to you. Thank you for joining this cult, fandom. And I can't wait to hear what you think of Dark Age or Lightbringer. Now,
well, welcome aboard, Ruster Sue.
Yeah, Ruster Sue. So, on that note, now that we're halfway through, are we prime for this recap?
We are prime, my goodman. We are prime.
All right, Chapter 15, Truth. My quote, time to shit your pants. Darrow has been brought to the principal's office, brought forth to the sovereign by Fitchner himself. Earlier, Octavia asked for a box to be retrieved, and now it is revealed for all to see and witness. What comes from this box is an abomination, a carver's wet dream, or a particular sovereign's, I suppose. Commissioned by Octavia from a man named Zanzibar, which is also a location in East Africa, off the coast of East Africa, Zanzibar. Anyways, it's a 3-eyed creature, part scorpion, part pit viper, part centipede, with transparent skin, chitinous mouth that chatters and hisses at the same time. Fucking gross.
Mm-hmm.
I can handle all sorts of bugs, snakes. I've played with scorpions, and I fondly remember giant-ass camel spiders, my time over in the Middle East. This thing, what Pierce Brown created with his imagination, sounds disgusting. I don't know if it gave you the EBGBs.
I second that. Anytime I see the word chitinous, it's disgusting. And oddly, of those 3 things, the viper, the scorpion, and the centipede, centipedes are grosser to me than all of them.
I was going to ask this. So, yeah,
disgusting.
Which part of this 3 fandango freaking creature would creep you out the most? And it's the 100-leg centipede portion with like a spiny, curly back is what.
And they're like fat. They're like tubular, and just, I don't know. Something about them is really gross. The ones that have the really long antennas too, that like feel out ahead of them as they're moving around. I find that fucking vile.
They got them up by you? Up in the frozen north?
No. Thank God, no. They can't, it's like not warm enough, long enough for anything like that.
They need like damp conditions, warm conditions.
Yeah.
Anyways, now we're going into insects. Fucking book. All right. This creature is called an oracle. They were specifically carved and created as a lie detector test. The latch onto one's arm, sucking the victim's blood continuously while the game is played. The game is questions. If there are any deviations, any fluctuations of temperature, chemicals in your blood, the pulse of your heart changing, the oracle will strike with its scorpion tail. Octavia states, the poison won't kill you. But I've cells filled with men who have played my game and lost. If there is a hell, what's in that stinger is as close to it as science has let us come. Now, at this point of the chapter, I can't be the only one thinking, fuck, we're screwed. Like, how is Darrow going to survive this? Like, he is the epitome of a big fat lie. So
he's living a lie.
And the only conceivable chance I saw Darrow getting through this mess is if he wholeheartedly believes in the lie so much that it becomes true to him, that he can fake it. If he believes it enough, I guess he can trick. But not knowing anything about this creature, we're just learning of it now as it slithers out of this box. I kind of had my doubts. But there was one interaction that I kind of held faith onto for Darrow's sake, which was when Darrow speaks to the little weasel Lysander. No lies. That's a breezy order when you're a child. He never lies, Aja says proudly. None of us do. Lies are rust on iron, a blemish on power. Power they're so drunk on they can't even remember how many lies they stand upon. Tell my people you don't lie, you brutish bitch, and we'll see what they do to you. This quote, for some reason, gave me hope, knowing how these, let's say, the sovereign's crew, the rulers, they believe so high and mighty in themselves. They believe they tell no lies when we know for a fact they do. They've told Reds for hundreds of years, you're building to colonize Mars and help us all out, and they're pieces of shit. But it's at this point I knew this game, this little oracle game, is all about manipulation, admission, omission, skewing the truth. And that's something we know Darrow is capable of. So to me, it was like, okay, maybe this won't be so bad. I don't know if you felt the same way or you just thought he was screwed. I
thought he was fucked. I actually didn't think there was going to be an end to this. I thought it was going to be like a halfway through he has to duel Fitchner or Aja, or somehow it was going to end in violence, and that was going to be, then we were, he was going to be trying to escape the building or something like that. I didn't think that, I didn't see it going the way it actually went.
Somehow moved. He didn't say anything. Pierce Brown didn't mention he moved the bomb from the gala table and planted it behind Octavia's chair and then blew her ass off. Yeah.
Something. I was waiting for somebody to burst through the door or somehow, anything literally could have happened, and I would have been like, that makes sense. But except for the thing that ended up happening.
Yes. So this interaction also throughout this chapter brought a smile to my face. Octavia says, you see, I collect people I enjoy, Andromedus. I even enjoy Fitchner there. Many might see him as a repugnant, might think his heritage unseemly. But, like you, he is also very talented. When I asked him to play this game before becoming one of my Olympic knights, you know what he said? Fitchner shrugs. Told you to stick the box up your cooch. I'm not an idiot. Now, besides me completely butchering trying to say that quote, just Fitchner being Fitchner, which is awesome.
Doing Fitchner things, Barca being Barca.
But Octavia says earlier on that she's done this game 71 times. And in the end, she's only ever trusted one other. It doesn't say that is Fitchner. Is that Fitchner to you? Is he the one other? He didn't play the game, but is that playing the game? Like refusing to do it?
No, but I get your angle, and I think it's a good angle, but I think she means she literally played the game with one other person. And I think it's Aja.
Ooh. Okay. All right. So I tried doing a little digging, trying to figure out who, And the majority of answers were Fitchner, Aja,
Oh,
Atlas.
Mustang.
Oh, I didn't even think nobody said anything on Mustang that I found on Reddit. But again, I'm not aficionado of Reddit rabbit holes, so
Neither am I. Atlas is a good one. I can see that.
yeah. And then some people thought Lysander, but I think that's less likely that she put a 10-year-old kid.
I was just gonna say that's crazy.
Yeah. And she's teaching him, stuff that I don't want to mention for spoilers, but it seems like I don't think she would have done that.
It's a huge
But
risk. Your entire inheritance of your throne is put on the off chance that a 10-year-old has the wisdom to know what to lie about and what not to lie about.
yeah.
I don't know.
So you think it would have been Mustang?
My guess is, my thoughts are it's either Aja or Mustang,
All right.
because Mustang doesn't seem shocked by the oracles.
No, but there's a pure hatred of them, as we also know in the future.
Yeah, but also a desire to bend their capabilities towards the good.
No. She was against it. She tried spoilers to anyone. She tried having them all destroyed.
Yes, but what does she end up doing?
Well, she doesn't end up using it. It was somebody else ends up using it on Lyria.
No. She doesn't use them. She takes their qualities and dilutes it down to the mind spike.
Okay. All right. Well, that's different. Mustang can do no wrong.
I agree, but I'm just saying she sees the value in having something that will, allow won't allow someone to lie. I'm just saying, I think that she comes in. Does she come in at the end of this chapter or in mine?
Yes, she does.
And she's not like disgusted or like horrified by these things.
But she's still playing a game. She's still trying to,
But I mean, if she's already
political...
if she's played the game with Octavia, then she wouldn't be shocked or horrified by these things.
No, I apologize. I mean, like, she's still playing the game as, like, she's going in there and doing the little political song and dance. It's not like the literal game I mentioned. Like, she's testing Aja or Octavia, and they're the little spats back and forth. They're very much,
Yeah, I mean,
battling.
I don't know. I feel like Mustang's a viable candidate. I also think it's Aja, just because Aja's the one who very much was like, we have no lies in this room. We don't tell lies.
Mm-hmm.
And then also she's the one kind of like, Octavia, you need to end the game. I know how this plays out. You can't lie. I know how, so I think that there's...
So those were the two reasons why I picked her.
You did,
she seemed too like cocksure to be like, yeah, we know we don't lie. Like, she had this upper hand, which me and Octavia know each other, we're best buds. And then when she chimes in to shut her up, which was an interesting segment. But moving on from that, we have, I already asked this question, silly me. Back and forth the questions go, seemingly. So as this oracle is attached to Darrow and Octavia, throughout this chapter, there's a lot of questions that are pretty vital, to be honest. And you're talking about troop movements. They're trying to find out about Nero's positions. Darrow's trying to ask questions that don't seem like a typical gold. He doesn't want to give away his hand at the same time. So they're giving away a lot of vital information, but at the same time, they're keeping their important secrets close. At this point, suddenly Mustang slams into the room, and we learn of the night's death tally. What happened at the end of the gala to get us to this point? 73 dead, 2 Earthborn families erased off the map, neither of which had anything to do with Bologna or Augustus, and over 200 wounded. Cassius still lives, and he is in stable position, and carvers are preparing to replace his arm. But most importantly, Mustang reveals and confirms a detail Darrow had learned earlier during their escape from the gala. And knowing that this game is coming to an end between this Octavia and himself and this oracle, he fires away. Octavia responds, "Do ask, boy. We have no secrets here, but it must be the last." Tonight, at the gala, during the 6th course of the meal, did you plan to allow the Bologna to assassinate Arch-Governor Augustus and all those who sat at his table? Aja freezes. Mustang slowly turns to look at the sovereign, whose face shows no hint of dishonesty. The woman breathes easily, and with a soft smile, lies through her teeth. "No," she says, "I did not." The oracle barbed tail strikes at her flesh. That's a pretty sweet way to end the chapter, not going to lie.
Yeah.
But
there's nobody on the planet who could then close the book and be like, all right, I'm going to bed now.
Yeah, exactly. How?
You have to go to the next page.
That is a good cliffhanger. Pierce does that. I'll
every
give him
chapter.
That.
That's why they're so readable.
Yes, 100%. So the way this chapter goes, I have to give it to Darrow. This is Darrow's chapter. He's, the big dog that shows up, gets brought to the sovereign herself, and then seemingly, at least how my chapter ends, got the upper hand and had, for the first time ever, according to everyone, got Octavia to admit in a lie. We don't know if the barb on this tail of the scorpion hits her. It just says it strikes at her flesh. Now, how could have things been different? Let's say chapters ago, Darrow and Harmony were arguing, and Darrow was demanding, "I want to speak with Ares." What if he actually gotten his wish and she told him, or she knew who Ares was, or if Ares was there and actually met with him? Because few of the questions that Octavia asked, who is Ares? The sons of Ares, are you an agent for them? Would they believe Ares is more than they previously thought? And do you think Darrow wouldn't have been able to actually lie through all of those questions if he got his wish chapters ago? Or would he would have been ended here?
No, I didn't think of that until you just brought it up, but that's a great point. It's actually a blessing in disguise that he has been out of the loop for 2 years and has no idea who Ares is. I think that's a very good thing or interesting thing to point out, that he's lying here, but he's not, because he actually doesn't know who the fuck Ares is or anything really about him.
Exactly.
And that ends up being a huge benefit, surprisingly.
And that's where, secret undercover or military groups that they're dealing behind the lines, it's a give and take. It's like, we can't give you any information. You're stuck on your own. It has to be a mental mind fuck to get through that, but then still know, well, if you're captured, you can't give anything up because we're not giving you anything, which it's a double-edged sword. Yeah. But there's a reason behind it. There's method to the madness. But this pretty much covers the chapter. It's on the shorter side.
Well, I've got 2 questions for you.
Oh, let's go.
Of the questions that were asked, what was the most surprising question, and what do you think was the most dangerous for both people?
I think the last question is dangerous for both people because you're catching this woman, this all-powerful sovereign, in a lie. So I felt like the game is rigged no matter what. Even if you win, you're still screwed. And then, of course, when he was asking questions about Ares, 100%. Oh, no, I'm sorry. What? I thought he could get through that. I thought the questions when it came to Adrius, when they said 3 days ago before the gala, where did you go? And he's like, well, I went to Lost City. And they're like, well, what were you doing down there? And he's like, I met with the Jackal and to become allies, and like admitted that information. I thought for some reason that was more damning, or that would be more damaging to him.
Yeah, I think for me, the most dangerous question was him asking her how many Peerless Scarred there were.
I didn't. Yeah, you're right. I didn't picture that, and the number too that she shat out,
which is crazy. But also, my whole thing was like, dude, you're tipping your hand here. Why would you need that information if you weren't
That's a great
a
point.
part of the rising? Like, that information would only be helpful for somebody trying to overthrow the society.
That's a very good point, because it just says, how many peerless scarred are there? Census data is hard to come by. It is kind of tipping your hand a little bit. Like, why would you give a shit?
Why does he need that information? and then the most surprising one for me was the where does Nero keep his nuclear stockpiles?
Yes.
And then,
but he gave it all up.
But my question to you is, how is it possible that he has a secret nuclear weapons depot underneath the throne room?
Yeah.
Of the society?
I completely forgot about that. But we know, I mean, he's got the money. He's got the helium. He can buy whoever. You know, you can, with money, haven't we learned this in life? If you have all the money, you can do whatever the hell you want.
Fair point. But that just seems fucking crazy.
Yeah. That's the ultimate power move.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I mean,
almost as bad as her power move later on.
And then
Asteroid.
I have another question for you. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Good point. How did Darrow know it was the 6th course of the dinner?
So my assumption is the night of the dinner, which there's some cool quotes here that I didn't get. I still actually want to throw some of them out on Instagram. He spoke with Karnas. And Karnas is the only other person I'm aware of that mentioned that the 6th course will be something to die for.
Oh.
Whatever.
That's got to be it. That's definitely got to be.
And then he's piecing it together. They assumed that, and then how the fleets were already grounded or forced, and nobody could access their own armies. It's like something was going to happen.
Okay.
And I think that's the only time I read something about the 6th course.
Nope, that answers the question, because I knew all the pieces of him knowing that something was going to happen, that it was going to probably be a Nero execution makes sense. But the only thing there that I was like, but that's so specific. How the fuck did he know that? But if Karnas said something intimating that, then that makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, there's some good Karnas quotes. That guy is a freaking monster and a demon, but he's got some cool quotes. I gotta throw him out there.
Only exists to kill people and drop dime quotes about life. That's his whole purpose.
Good old Karnas. So, tight beams. So that's the recap for chapter 15 under my watch. The tight beams, I got 2 of them, questions or topics. There was one I threw out on the socials that I want to direct towards you. Just kind of a quick one. The sovereign has appreciated your help with destroying an uprising. I'm going to be specific with that. So you're working for the society. She is willing to reward you one thing of your choice. Anything that exists within the society is at your disposal. Any command you request will be fulfilled. What do you choose as a reward? And of course, we're within this series, you can't just pull some shit out of...
What do I request? Probably I'd probably say the morning night
position.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. I like that.
What about you?
I
was gonna say the hand of Mustang, Augustus, but I can't.
You can't have that recorded down. Your wife's gonna get pissed.
No. So definitely the morning star position.
Nice. No, I was gonna ask for a typical handmade, like crafted, one of a kind razor, just something awesome like that. But if you had to go through the whole story, it's like, well, I would request that Edme be destroyed. But that seems like kind of reaching.
If we're going that deep, I would say I want the head of oh wow, how is this possible? I've now forgotten the fat business owner guy's name.
Oh, Quicksilver.
Yeah, I want the head of Quicksilver, and I want to inherit all of his businesses. I want all of his assets.
So you want to be the one with money to do whatever the hell you want. All right,
And
fine. Then
I
you have to
overthrow.
give me the God armor set then.
Okay, fair.
All right, because this is all spoilers. Well, I'm not really. We're being vague, but yeah, the God armor set that he commissioned or built is like the best in the whole series, isn't it? So give me that.
Not being very vague when you actually say the exact name of the thing, who built it, and what it's for.
All right, so being selectively specific. All right, whatever. All right, so the second type B, moving on from that, we posted out last episode on the socials and on TikTok, and I would say it blew up pretty fast. But to anyone listening or watching and have not seen this specific post, it was kind of a quick little excerpt from our episode where Cullen was discussing his fears for Red God, making a link or connection with the Peloponnesian War. And last time I checked, it was like 5,500 views and about 200 likes. And we have received a good amount of comments, but there were some questions that kept popping up. So, Cullen, can we break this down further? Can we use your historian brain and make a whole episode on this subject alone, or the links between, the other books in the series to the Iliad? And, is this something we should do? Right?
Absolutely.
So maybe an in-between books or something like that?
Yeah, I think you could definitely. I mean, the only problem with something like that in our lives is that it would require time, energy, and effort.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you, I mean, the links between the Iliad and Dark Age, the links between Lightbringer and the Odyssey are legion. They're not one-for-one remakes, but the inspiration behind a lot of everything that's happening is there. Darrow as the Achilles of Dark Age and the Iliad is very, very they are walking hand in hand through that whole story. To the point where he also has like a couple, he wears a few different hats. I think at times he's Achilles and Alexander is his Patroclus, and then at times he is Priam and Alexander is his Hector. There's a few, and this is all just my take on it. I'm not an expert on any of it, but I think we could definitely, if we found maybe another person or people who are more learned in the epics of Homer and could shed more light on some of these, I think that would be super interesting and super helpful.
And that brings up a good point, because somebody commented under that, and her name was Janelle. I don't want to mess up. I apologize if I do. Ryanen, who is the host of Greek Mythology Retold podcast, and she immediately jumped on this and was really cool. Talked to her for a little bit, and was like the idea of maybe doing a deep dive and having your guys' brains mesh. And if I looked up her profile, she's very much learned, a part of this Greek mythology. She's a history. I think it shows that she has a master's in this. So that's something that we might have to dive into. So
I just looked
up the show. Are you looking her up right now?
Yeah. And she's got a bunch of episodes out going all the way back.
The only thing I would caution is she did mention she's only partway through Dark Age at the moment. She hasn't finished the series yet. But I think we could the Dark Age would be huge to bring up anyway. We could always go on that topic. And then once she finishes the whole series, we can kind of dive into it more. But I like the idea, and I'm glad you're open to it. I would be like some listeners, probably just sitting back, eating the popcorn and listening in awe of the sweet links, because I am not an historian like our friend Cullen here. But
nor am I. But definitely, we could definitely do something. I don't know what it'll look like, but
all right. So on that, we have the Creator Corner section for this week, I wanted to mention larosa.studio_. Now, I have her Instagram. I have some of her works on my phone. They are breathtaking stained glass artwork. And here's some pieces that she has that is just, it's intense. These are mind-blowing, amazing pieces. She doesn't just do Red Rising, though. She does anything from fantasy. She does some stuff from detailed works, like from Devil May Cry, which I don't know if you can see that. Really cool pieces. That's from a video game. Cullen probably is confused on what that is.
I have no idea.
But very detailed. And I know I was writing up this recap and actually looking at these pictures, and my wife looked at me too, and she's seeing what I'm looking up, and she's like, no more Red Rising stuff. Stop it. And I'm like, well, I'm working on this recap. And then she's like, no. So I'm trying, if I can get her to read the books, maybe I can pull her in around. But at least at this moment, I won't be able to buy anything of LaRosa's work, but maybe one day. So if anyone needs to check it out.
Well, I think you may be in luck because your birthday's in July. And
yes,
I reached out to LaRosa a while back to commission a piece of work. And not only was she super helpful, and she did it in like 2 days, but it was like reasonably priced, and the quality of the work is phenomenal. So you very well you may not even have to do anything that would upset your wife. You may just have a piece of LaRosa's artwork at some point down the road.
Wow. You know what? I don't even know what to say. You're an asshole.
We haven't gotten it yet, so
yeah, well,
this all depends on whether or not I remember to reach back out to her by the time that your birthday rolls around.
Well, yeah, we'll see how destroyed your brain is by then.
We'll see. No, it's LaRosa, phenomenal work, beautiful colors, like everything about it is just. It's also like one of those hobby art styles that I'm just so in awe of, because how the fuck do you even get into that? How do you like one day just, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make stained art or stained glass.
Yes. And that's like, I think I saw Lehigh Stained Glass who made a comment. She's just like, I wanted to try it, or she saw it online or something and just started doing it. I'm like, that is super awesome. Cool. And her work is phenomenal as well. So it's, you know, they're gifted. They start this and it takes off because people love it and their stuff sells fast. So for LaRosa, she's at larosa.studio _, and then she is on Instagram and on Linktree at link.tree/LaRosa Studio. But there was one other creator that I wanted to mention. They just popped up. They had a new account. Like, fine, I will do one other. And that is Beer's the Mind Killer.
Ah, there you go.
Beer's the Mind Killer, KC, 10% off his entire store. Kevin is really cool. I've said it before. And at this point, also, Book and Box Co. Thank you for our new design. And of course, Cullen and I don't know if he's held it up yet. He's got glass. If anyone's listening, not watching, we have the
eggnog,
shot glass
alcohol-free eggnog, and in this beautiful glass by Book and Box Co. Everything I've gotten from them has been just great quality. And, you know, I mean, again, like your wife, my wife is also like, what the fuck is happening to this? the bedroom, the guest room / office is just very slowly turning into, you know, a place where like Red Rising just went to die in here.
Yes.
It's just covered in shit.
I feel like Severo's, like bedroom on the PAX, you know, it's just taking everything over and everything, all of his trinkets are all on the walls, and
trinkets, trophies, and unicorn porn just floating all over your office there.
Well, you can't forget his main like meaning for life, which is unicorn porn. So that's what drives Severo and Victor, but maybe
you.
All right, never mind. Yeah, and me. But so that pretty much covers my chapter and what I wanted to go over. This is kind of a short week. We did this before Christmas, so if you're listening to this or watching this will be on Friday. Merry Christmas if you believe in that. Happy Hanukkah, or if you're like myself and you happy Friday, Thursday, whatever. Yeah, happy
Happy
holidays,
solstice.
happy solstice, all the things, But on that note, I just want to conclude Chapter 15, Truth. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, please rate and review. It helps us out. And check out our Instagram, Sons of Aries Pod, YouTube, TikTok. If you have any questions covering any chapters, topics, or characters, a passage you wish to be discussed, or just a moment you love or loathe, and you want Cullen to maybe narrate it, which would be cool, send us a type beam, or you could send us an email at thesonsofariespodcast@gmail.com. For now, Cullen, we sign off. We are the Sons of Aries for the Rising.
Valete.